Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. We have a guest today with us. She is a business and finance coach. So we're going to talk about your money. And I'd like to welcome you to the show, Amarachi, Stanley, Duru.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and I'm glad we're going to have this wonderful time together. Thank you.
I love that we have guests from all over the world, and you are in Nigeria. So we are recording this, and just so our audience gets a little bit of an insider scoop here, it is 4 p.m. for me in Arizona, and it is midnight for you. That is the commitment of a business owner.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So talk to us a little bit about your business so that our listeners have a clear understanding of who it is that they're going to be listening to for the next 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so thanks, Alicia. I am a business and finance coach. I started out as a business coach a couple of years ago, based out of my background in banking and my experience in personal finance consultancy. So, what do I do? I basically help business owners strategize and build their businesses, and at the same time help them come up with strategies to build their personal finance as well. So you don't just have money as a business, but you also get wealthy as an individual who owns a business. Basically, that's what I do.
Got it. Now, we talked a little bit before we started recording about the importance of separating your business income from your personal income. It's important to have that distinction. So,
Yes.
Having been a business owner in my early 20s filing bankruptcy, I went through that process of, filing under my business because it was a business failure. A lot of people, especially when they're getting started and if they're in a service type based business, they don't separate. And that can be pretty dangerous. So granted, we have a lot of different types of business owners listening, and some of them may have, your conventional sort of brick and mortar business. And when you have the sort of conventional business model, you pretty much have to, right? You have to have a separate bank account. You have separate financials for your business. If you're selling tangible products, you have to, here in the United States, you have to have a whole different tax filing process, for those types of things. So you're kind of required, you're forced into it. But even then, it can be actually a little bit messy. And if you're maybe, pulling out of the piggy bank for your business, for your personal financial needs, you can create a messy situation. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about why it's so important to have that separation.
Okay, I'd like to tell you a bit of a story, right, about a client. So I've known this woman for several years, and she owned a very big bookshop, and she had several people. She was your go-to person for books, for any kind of resource. She was a very big business owner. But a couple of years back, say two and a half years ago, she had litigation issues with one of her clients, and then her business was shut down temporarily. There was a court order and the business was shut down temporarily. The effect on this person's personal life was terrible. She went from being a multi-millionaire to almost having nothing, almost being dependent. It was shocking because you would ask, how could someone who controls so much money end up having nothing within a very short period of time? And I asked her a question. I asked her what happened. And she said, honestly, throughout the period I ran my business, I never paid myself anything. I didn't pay myself anything. And I found that very difficult to understand. But at the same time, it's not that difficult to understand when you see the model or the methods people use to run their business. I know there are different ways an entrepreneur can pay himself from the business. There are basically just a few. Either take a drawing or you pay yourself a salary or something. But she didn't have any. In fact, I think she just took drawings, but then what percentage, how much were you taking? If you understand what I mean, are you with me? Hello, Alicia, are you with me?
Yes, you're cutting out a little bit, but we're still okay.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, so one of the primary concerns I have is yes, people take out some money. You just mentioned people just keep filtering to the piggy bank of their businesses. Yes, I do understand that. But when you pay yourself from your business, how much exactly should you pay yourself? And I think that's primarily dependent on at what stage your business is at. So for service-based businesses, it could be a bit more difficult because you are the brand, you are the business, as it were. For people who run brick and mortar businesses, who probably sell commodities and stuff, yes, you could say, okay, so these are the items that are attached to my business. You could begin to decide, okay, so this costs this much, therefore I could take out this and all that. But for service-based businesses, it becomes a bit more difficult. So I think based on this, there should be a proper, structure on what you pay yourself, how do you determine how much you pay yourself, at what stage of the business to use that to pay yourself something. I think I should stop here because I have a feeling you're going to ask me more questions.
Well, there are probably people who are thinking to themselves right now, I need to create, separate bank accounts. I need to separate my business finances from my personal finances. And I keep putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. Because a lot of people don't like to deal with these things. And this is one of those mindset things.
Yeah.
So I'd love to actually kind of take a little segue here and talk about the mindset piece of this, because you do have to start to create that separation in the mind first. Otherwise, it just becomes a whole host of excuses about why it's inconvenient and it's challenging and maybe you can't or you don't want to, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? Do you see that with your clients ever?
All the time. All the time, Alicia, all the time. It's basically a mindset, like you said, especially when you're talking to clients about personal finance. You just have, I don't make enough. I don't earn enough. I don't have enough, therefore I can do investments. I don't have enough, therefore I can't commit to savings any money. I don't have enough, therefore I have to take money out of my business. Especially when you're talking to people who are just starting their businesses. So they keep saying, we eat out of the business. And I get this all the time. I was in the training session for a group of young entrepreneurs on Saturday. And we had this conversation. It always goes back to, I don't make enough, we have to eat out of our business. About same week last week on Tuesday, I had to train a couple of women for an NGO, okay, because they were trying to get some funding, and we still have this conversation. I don't make enough. How do I save money? How do you begin to say I should separate the business income from the personal income? We eat out of the business. There is no sustainability for any business where you peel for out of the business income. It's not going to make it. It's definitely going to fail. Now, one of the first things I recommend is the mindset part. Make the decision, make the separation in your mind first. That has to happen. I personally believe that everything is created twice. Anything you make, any achievement is achieved twice. First in your mind, then you make it happen. If you can't see it, you can't do it. If you can't picture it, you can't go there. Okay, so there has to be that change, there has to be that acceptance, that belief, that confidence that I can do it. It doesn't mean that you already know how to do it. It doesn't mean that you totally believe that you can do it. But if you are able to begin to think it, then you can take one step at a time and then begin to gain clarity as you walk through the process. So the mindset has to happen, the mind shift has to happen, something has to happen in the mind before the person begins to take action to make the separation in the business.
Yes,
Yes, Alicia.
absolutely. You're speaking my language here. And it's a valuable stretch to make within yourself, because how can you become more when the story that you keep repeating to yourself over and over and over again is I can't, there's not enough. And just to clarify, I mean, this is a real issue for people at a variety of different income levels. We're not just talking about people who are scraping by. This is something that a lot of people, even who are over six figures in their business, are still wrestling with, because
Mm-hmm.
it's the old self image. You're not seeing yourself yet as the successful business person who you keep pretending you're striving to be. You have to start to embrace that new self image and start acting like the self, the self-made success that you
Mm-hmm.
truly can be.
Yes. I like the word you use, truly can be. You know, the possibility. You're not there yet, but you know that you could become this. That understanding is very pivotal.
If we really look at this in a very, very basic way, right? Let's just say that you have decided that you are going to learn a new sport. I don't, do you do golfing in Nigeria?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So let's say that you want to take up golfing. You're not just going to decide, oh, I'm going to become good at golfing and not buy the proper equipment,
Yes.
right? You're not taking yourself seriously if you don't
Yeah.
buy the proper attire, you don't buy yourself a set of golf clubs. You're not going to be walking out there on the golf course wearing flip-flops if you really genuinely are committed to taking this seriously. And so many budding entrepreneurs are not taking themselves seriously. Like, oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy the necessary things when I achieve this certain financial milestone. And then that certain financial milestone never comes, or there's always an excuse for why to put it off, right? Why you put off creating the proper business structure, why you put off creating the proper financial environment for your business to grow. It's like building a house on an unstable foundation. If you've ever watched a house being built, they prepare the ground first, because that's the only way you create sustainability.
You're very correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so I agree that small businesses tend to postpone setting up appropriate structures for their businesses. As always, it's putting off. I think what happens is when we say start small, okay, start the way you can. Okay, so very recently, I wrote a book titled Moving from Idea to Profit. The subtitle is your first steps to building a business as an entrepreneur. So, um, and in the book, I mentioned some of the things you have to do before you start. And primarily, I dedicate a particular chapter just to the mindset, the mental shifts you have to make, the transition of your mindset from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur's mindset. Okay, because people seem not to get that. There has to be a lot of transitions going on in your mind because if you've been an entrepreneur all your life, okay, fine, right? But if you work for someone for a while and then you have to start a business for yourself, you need to understand that being an employee is totally different from being an entrepreneur. An employee wouldn't sit up this late to have this conversation with his boss. No way. He's going to wait till 8 p.m., 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. the next morning. It's not going to happen. Okay. But as an entrepreneur, you work 24 hours, you put in the extra time, you look at your finances, you delay some gratification, you invest most of your money into the business. It's like nursing a baby. You're trying to make it grow. You give it all the attention. You need to buy equipment, you buy equipment. You need to get coaching or mentoring, you get coaching and mentoring. You need to attend trainings or classes. You need to read resources. All that is very important. But it takes understanding. It takes that mind shift of saying this is a different ball game altogether than what I'm used to. Okay, so if you have that understanding, you begin to say, okay, fine, I'm just starting out. It's just I in my business, but I know within the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I'm going to be this big. So, what are the structures that I need to put in place for when I have three more people? What are the standard operating procedures that I have to use in my business? What are the job objectives I need to create for my new admin that is coming in, for my personal assistant, for my production managers, for my marketing managers, for my managers, for whatever job function that is going to come in eventually based on the picture you've created. Draw the organogram, keep the picture in front of you, keep looking at it. It will make it happen because you already have the structure. But where you decline, or let's just say where you postpone this, oh, I just have my laptop right now with just me, I'll keep doing this until I'm able to get it right, it will never happen. Because even when the opportunity presents itself, you have no idea where to plug it in because the picture isn't there. So structures and creating systems are always very important, no matter how small the business is.
So good. Now let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about you as the business owner.
Mhm.
So, can you share with us something that you personally, your own mindset stuff that you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
Okay. Now, Alicia, if we were, I'm sorry I had to laugh because I know how far I've come. Okay, so I'm not very quick to judge people who are starting out in their businesses. Okay, 2 years ago, I wouldn't be having this meeting with you. I wouldn't even think it would be possible, right? I wouldn't be thinking of amplifying my voice with outside my environment. Okay, I wouldn't be thinking that my message should be relevant. I think other people might need to hear it, but I wouldn't be thinking that I could or I should begin to talk to other people. So I'll start with saying that I'm very shy and introverted. So I do most of my things myself. I come up with my ideas. I sit on it. I work on it. I spend so much time with it. And you can guess it never sees the light of day because it's all within, right? It's all in the inside. A lot of times, for us to be able to achieve what we want to achieve, you need to bounce your ideas on someone. You need to have some people who you call them. I have strategy sessions with my friends. Okay, we have masterminds. Bounce your ideas of someone. Let someone hear what's going on in your mind. So that was part of my challenge. I wasn't the talking type. I wasn't really talking to anybody about what I was doing, and I was very noisy on the inside. Now, if you ever start with me for 15 minutes, you'll be blown away with number of ideas that will hit you, and you could go on and implement. But I'm sharing with you, but I'm not achieving anything. To put it in perspective, it took me 2 years to bring out the book I was writing. So it was that serious. But I sat with myself and I asked myself, no, you're going to have to overcome this. But like I mentioned to you, or I said in the earlier conversation, I said, if you need to get mentoring, you get. If you need to find a coach, you find a coach. If you need to join a community of people who motivate you, who inspire you to stretch, to become more, to do more, you do that. And I did that. So sometime last year, I joined a coaching program. There were quite a number of us in that program. So there were timelines, there were assignments, there were timelines, and we worked on certain projects and we came out with action points and we had deadlines to deliver on those things. Now, it brought out all the noise happening within me, right? It began to come out and I began to share my words, my messages. I began to aspire to coach more clients. I tried to get a bit more visible. So I came out on social media. I began to share live sessions. I never used to do that. Really, I never used to come out on social media. So I began to share more live sessions. I began to hold a few more events. Not really that I started out, just a few events here and there. What happened? The result was I became a bit more visible. I've had more events this year than I've had in the last 3 years. Put together, the speaking engagement this year have been more than 3 years put together. I've had more exposure. I'm more confident. My business has grown wider. Now speaking with you, I'm covering a larger and a more international audience. You understand what I mean? It was a journey, but I had to put myself through it. I had to change my mindset. I had to work with people. I had to accept the challenge. And I need to step out of my comfort zone and confront my fears. One of my fears was the camera, the one I'm looking at you with. I didn't like looking into the cameras. But now I look into the cameras, I get up, I prepare my meetings, I sit down, I come up with stuff, create content, and I share content. I give people value. Even when they don't have to pay me for it, I do it freely because that's how I feel. So it's been a journey for me, but I've come a long way. I still have a long way to go, but I think I've done something good for myself.
I love to say I just had a consultation with a new client today, and she was sharing about, her fears and doubts and insecurities about growing her business. She has a great foundation, and, there's so much potential for growth. And she's just recognizing that she's bumping up against some of her old subconscious conditioning. And as I'm listening to her, and she's spilling it all, create that sacred space where people can be vulnerable and let it all out. And my response to her was, welcome to the club. So this has been fantastic. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
Okay, so you can visit my website. It's www.amarachistandley.com. And then you could follow me on Instagram at Amarachi Stanley, Facebook as well at Amarachi Stanley. So you just you could follow me on those platforms. I have a Nigerian number, so you could follow, you could call, send a WhatsApp message or whatever. You could send an email as well at info@amarachistanley.com. You could call on +234-818-2765-446. That's basically how you could reach me anytime.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us today. You shared a lot of valuable information, and I'm really hoping that if there is anyone who hopefully is being self-honest right now and saying, I've been avoiding, I've been putting this off, and I know it's something I need to do, that we've inspired them to start thinking bigger.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Alicia.
And thank you to all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.